You are the lead example in the Journal story on page 1 today. Firms struggle to find U.S.-made goods. Is your phone ringing off the hook today?
Yeah, it's been, we've had a lot of members in our national association, the American Pyrotechnics Association, who have just tremendous concerns over whether or not their containers that are going to be coming in midsummer that are going to affect their fall sales, winter sales, and especially currently. So it's there are a lot of small family businesses that are really alarmed at this point.
Your quote is, it would be great if I could just say I'm going to get my containers from U.S. companies. They don't exist. I think everybody understands the dynamic in your industry, but do you think your industry is hyper-specific just because of the nature of the good?
Yeah, I think it's very hyper-specific. You have consumer fireworks that are traditionally for backyard displays that regular consumers purchase for a variety of reasons, for the 4th of July to family celebrations, New Year's Eve, and all kinds of celebrations. And they have never been available through manufacturing of any consumer grade of fireworks. So all of those types of products have always been from China. When it comes to professional display fireworks, you're talking about regulations and hyper insurance demands that have been placed in the 80s and 90s, and close to those 25 or 30 companies that were manufacturing are no longer able to do so. And as a result, a lot of that transitioning has gone to China for about 85% of their total inventory needs annually.
Wow. So you're saying, Steve, that fireworks, I mean, one of the most American traditions I can think of, especially during the summer and certain holidays, we're getting them all from China? There's no alternative?
No, there really isn't. You, of course, have some factories in Italy, Spain, even some in Mexico, but nowhere near the capacity to handle the global market of all the needs of fireworks. The U.S. consumes a tremendous amount of fireworks. Just in professional display fireworks is approximately 500 containers. Consumer fireworks is 15,000 containers, and all of these factories combined are lucky if they could fulfill 10% of the need.
Mr. Pelkey, you know, behind a lot of the arguments that the administration has made is the idea that the jobs can come back here, that things can be made here. So I just want to make sure I understand. This industry went away largely in the U.S., again, because of regulatory burdens, I would assume. Is it also just overall cost as well? Is it still cheaper to have things these made in China?
Well, even if you had the ability to be able to regain all of these factories of all of these smaller companies, many of them have already gone out of business. So now you're only talking about a select amount of companies that even have the skill set. And once you have the skill set, it's fine that you have amongst a lot of these small family businesses, we're not Fortune 500 companies. These are businesses that typically have less than 25 employees, and you would have to have a very well-trained staff that takes a number of years. And it would be virtually impossible, even if you had all of the labor force necessary to just convert all to full manufacturing in the United States.
I was just thinking, imagine the number of fireworks Disney burns off every single day of the year. To your earlier point, Steve, what's going to be your main take at your testimony?
Well, I'm not personally testifying. We have the American Pyrotechnics Association Executive Director, Julie Heckman, who is very versed in this subject. She has been discussing day and night with many of our member companies over all the specifics. She knows all the issues. She's going to be testifying, I believe, on Thursday. Because it was that was the time that she was assigned, but there are many companies testifying, I believe, over a week and a half in front of the U.S. Trade Commission.
So what if you don't get the exemption and those tariffs do go through on the next $300 billion worth of imports, including fireworks? What's your plan?
Well, the plan, quite simply, is there would be for many companies, a small price increase. And, you know, some of the argument is that a lot of these tariffs raising funds for something for the general budget. Well, first of all, if you're raising tariffs and there is no other alternative, you're converting what basically now is a 21% income tax on profits made from all of these small businesses, and then basically transferring that, because now it's an expense. Now you're paying a 25% tax on top of that. So this whole thought process that you're collecting all of this additional revenue is just not true. It's you're doing is collecting the money now and not collecting it down the road.
Steve, how much? Well, you've got to have planned for this. So how much will you pass along to your customers, and how much are you willing to swallow in margin if you get the 25%?
Well, I think there are many of us that have had to swallow a lot of the other increases. China already has been going through various forms of inflation themselves, so there's already been built-in 3%, 4%, 5% increases that we've had to absorb just over the last 5 or 6 years. Then the cost of shipping, and a lot of people don't realize just the cost of shipping all the way from China ports to various ports within the United States is usually 20 to 25% of the total cost of the fireworks. And now you're talking about how much more can we possibly absorb? And I think the general rule is it's going to have to be shared. It's going to have to be shared either through some of the manufacturers and our suppliers in China. It's going to have to be shared amongst all of us that have all these small family businesses. And some of it is going to have to be passed on. And quite unfortunately, many of the municipalities that we perform a 4th of July display for are, sponsored by municipalities. So it's going to cost them a little bit more in a very, very tight environment where you don't have a lot of people that are increasing their budgets for any reason, never mind for the causes of tariffs.
Finally, Steve, I wonder, are your Chinese suppliers voicing concern to you about losing your business? If not to an American supplier, I don't know, somewhere else in Asia, perhaps?
Yeah, they're very concerned, and many of them have been in contact with me and many other of our member companies for the last few weeks when a lot of this news started to come in. There are going to be certain countries that are going to be have a fortunate windfall, but it's not going to be anywhere near meeting the capacity of all of our needs in the U.S. So many of us are trying to ramp up some of our inventories, and perhaps in the future we're going to be ordering less, but it's going to be very impactful on many of our small business families over the next year.